Before I came to understand and communicate with these species and have conversations with them, I was a lot more concerned about how all of this might happen. The military perspective is pretty straightforward. We understand that there are two choices. We either move towards Type 1 civilization or we go back to the Bronze Age.
The reason why they come back is that whatever is happening on Earth is directly affecting the collective memory of the whole species.
Some of the really ancient species are, in my understanding, some of the most involved in what's happening here.
Are there extraterrestrial influences outside that are slowing us down from that? Today on Cosmic Disclosure, we're with Tim, a tactical advisor from Germany who analyzes and suggests various strategies in relation to extraterrestrial groups in contact with Earth. Also joining us today is Captain Randy Kramer, who claims to be the public spokesperson for United States Marine Corps Special Section. Welcome, gentlemen. Tim, in terms of a global military operation, how could you elaborate on that?
So I think from my perspective that people in charge have realized a lot more of the benefits in growing a successful population compared to a bit more self-centered viewpoint in, a decade ago or something. So I have more positive thoughts about leaders and world governments now than I had 10 years ago. We already talked about future events that could occur. Also, I think we were talking about breakaway situations. And the reason why they come back is that whatever is happening on Earth is directly affecting the collective memory of the whole species.
Now, Randy, being a military person, what would be your perspective?
Well, the military perspective is pretty straightforward. We understand that there are two choices. We either move towards Type 1 civilization or we go back to the Bronze Age. So in looking at all of the various problems that are represented in the achievement moving towards Type 1 civilization, there's a lot of issues. The way that the whole social structure, political structure, economic structure, not to say that all of these things are going to get destroyed in order to rebuild, but there are problems in all of these structures that have to be addressed in order to move to Type 1. So I would say that the military is working the problem.
Are there extraterrestrial influences outside that are slowing us down from that?
I'd say there's always individuals who have an agenda on why they might not want that process to go quickly, and there are those who might want to see that process go quickly.
Why is that?
Different people have different ideas about whether it's good for us to be strong or not. Some species may see us as a threat. Others may see us as a potential protectorate, or protector. So I think that there's just different motivations on whether we do well or not based on another species or the civilization's own agenda.
Tim, we spoke earlier about this exact situation where, maybe we're being repressed, but at the same time, you have mentioned that we are on a trajectory of success. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, totally. So Randy's absolutely correct. There are some species, because human beings, at least on Earth, they have a very high potential in becoming a very evolved species, because experiences on Earth are so diverse that finding solutions for that creates a lot of new data for the universe. So that creates a huge potential. There are some species that do not see the benefits from that, having like a warrior type species that is pretty evolved. So I absolutely agree that some species try to keep humanity down. And to what I know, this has been done systematically by altering the language patterns of humanity, by imposing an educative structure upon Earth, by modifying timelines or getting into time wars, as Randy put it, genetic blockages, and also imposing a socio-cultural system that creates more chaos upon Earth than it is doing any good for anybody.
Now, if there was, guys, an ET species out there that would be our alliance, with us, what species first comes to mind to both of you?
Oh, for me, it's progenitor races. I mean, some of the really ancient species are, in my understanding, some of the most involved in what's happening here. And while they're what I would say gentle nudgers, they're not likely to come in and start really changing things. They'll nudge, 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 but they're precise nudgers. So when they nudge something, they know that a lot of impacts are going to happen from a very specific nudge. But I would have to say, before I came to understand and communicate with these species and have conversations with them, I was a lot more concerned about how all of this might happen. After having had conversations with them, I'm far less concerned about negative outcomes because I just don't think they're going to allow it at this point.
You're referring to the progenitor races as?
The two progenitor races that I'm familiar with are species that live millions of years, meaning that if you were an individual of that species, your lifespan would be millions and millions of years old. So they have a whole different perspective on how that goes. Now, I don't know how many of these species there are. My understanding, it's not a lot, and I've only encountered 2 in my entire career. But because of the length of time at which they're looking at things, I just really, you just start to see that even if we're real concerned about what's happening here, there are some hands making sure that certain things just don't go away, and which would make more work for them, because the whole point of them tinkering and attempting to get species to evolve is to make less work for them, because they don't want to babysit everybody. They don't want to police the universe, and they would rather have species grow up to police their own corners of the universe so they don't have to do it for them. So this is, I think, one of those situations where for a species that thinks about how much resources and time it has to spend on things over millions and millions of years, they don't want to spend the extra time and resources on something that, they would have to babysit for. They would rather have us do it, to be honest.
So who are they?
So this is a funny thing about names. When you're talking about a species that's millions of years old, they're way past language. They stopped using words and language a long time ago. So when we talk to them about, well, who are you? What's your name? Often it's like, what do you want to call us? What do you want to think of it? So they often refer to themselves as children of light, which is a very vague term, but, it's also something that you might tell a toddler, so that it's simple for them. We call them the bronze ones just because that's their skin color. But, they don't have a name because they haven't had words for millions and millions of years.
Well, I like that you use the word progenitor because that is the beginning.
Yeah.
That is the beginning of everything.
Yeah.
Who do you think would be one of our first partners in the alliance?
Yeah, so I could answer similarly as Randy, but I'm gonna go another way and just to find some, diversity to that. I think because this is an ape species and they have some patterns that are, typical to ape species, there's something that is called correlationalism, which means that similar races ape species tend to work together with similar races, which means everyone who has experienced a situation that is similar to what we experience on Earth might be someone who steps in and gives some advice. Also, if we're thinking about, for example, the ancient people, also humans, or other humans which are out there, they might be, because of this specialty to ape races, someone who comes to mind in the first place in order to work together, in order to figure things out.
So who are the other ape species? We were taught that we were the only ape species.
Oh, no, absolutely not. There are some places in the universe where ape species evolve and are humanoids, so to speak. They might have a different approach to evolution. They might have a different planet, different options in order to, evolve. And also there are some genetics that are shared. There are other ape species that evolved either naturally or by manipulation of genetics into what we could consider a human.
Randy, what do you have to say about this? Because there's so many other humanoid species that evolve from different things.
Let me see if I can put it this way. So if we say something that's an insectoid species, that's pretty broad. They could be from a beetle or an ant or a dragonfly. Those are all subspecies that would be very different. Something that's a reptilian could come from something that's more like a crocodile or a rock lizard or a snake, which would be very different types of reptiles. So we kind of think, if we want to take another category, it would be mammalians. But when you're talking about mammalians, well, that could be something from an equine or a horse, something from a dog or a cat or a primate. So when we talk about apes, we're not even talking about apes, we're talking about all the primates. So you have as many different types of evolutionary paths from all of these different, species lines. So when you're just talking about primates, it could be a lot of different species that evolve from primates. And I would add that one of the main reasons why like species associate is partially because of genetics, partially because of history, partially because of commonality. But I would say the number one reason is commerce. They buy and sell similar stuff.
If you enjoyed this, make sure to watch the next video on AwakenZone. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, but you won't want to miss what's coming next.